when transport is restricted and there's so much of fear in there, we had to work on a roster basis. So we managed to, what the bank did was we catered to these requirements and we started operating our own transport services on the main bus routes to bring the customer staff into the bank. And once they got into the bank, we ensured about their safety also, where face masks, things like face masks, hand sanitizers, and gloves were given to the customer staff to ensure their safety. But we didn't just stop at our staff safety. We went on to ensure the safety of our customers also. So certain measures that we have implemented was having wash basins at the entrance of the bank premises so that the customers could wash their hands, hand sanitizers no sooner they enter the premises, checking their temperatures, and also maintaining social distancing in banking areas, custom areas. So to make sure that there was ample space kept between customers and not allowing customers to crowd at the counters. We also went on this on the other side. We were also mindful about the business continuity. So there was constant discussions with the regulations. You all know that there were certain regulations introduced by the Central Bank of Sri Lanka in March, and then went on with another set of regulations that was implemented by the Department of Import and Export. All this came in with the best interest of the country because there was a huge liquidity issue in the country. To curb this issue that these regulations came in. But then on the other hand, we saw that these certain restrictive regulations was not helping the country's image as well as our customers' image. Because if you see, trade had to continue even under any circumstances. So there was a number of meetings that we've had with the regulators to make sure that we address these issues, talking on behalf of the country, talking on behalf of the customers, and suggesting how they could make changes. As you know, as a result, today there was another circular issued where we could now make payments for import transactions on copy documents, which was not permitted earlier. This was a huge issue for the country, and where there was instances where raw material supplies were stopped because the suppliers couldn't rely on exporting to Sri Lanka any longer. So these were issues that we took up with the regulators, and on behalf of our customers and the country, like I said, we fought out these issues. Then there had been on the other hand, the courier companies. We were corresponding with the courier companies because you all know in a lockdown situation, the movement of documents, as much as it's restricted, is also essential. So continuously talking to DHL and the other courier companies and requesting them to cater to our requirements, making special arrangements to make sure that our customers' documents keep moving and not impacting the service that we render to you all. That is to make sure that your documents are out in time as well as in time, and making sure that you manage to do your clearances without incurring demurrage charges. So these are a couple of initiatives that the bank brought in from the very start. And I must say that we have been a pioneer in this area. HNB Trade was seen as a pioneer in this area in driving these initiatives, where the other banks, we managed to support the other banks also to follow suit. Having said that, coming back to Ajit's question on the services that we could offer to our customers, like Sanjay said, COVID-19, will be around for a while, but to our customers, all the request is to make sure that we now get adjusted to the new normal. Things need to be done differently, and we need to think differently. Starting with things being done differently, I would like to touch on the digitalization, where we have a end-to-end solution on our online platform. That is where, just to elaborate a bit more, where our customers can carry out both not only their trade transactions, their guaranteed transactions also, that is issuing of LCs, amending LCs, issuing of guarantees and amending guarantees, making payment on bills, requesting for shipping guarantees. All this is supported on our online platform. And then thereafter, even the post services like downloading your advisors, downloading telex messages that has been transmitted, which will continue to help you with continuing your trade transactions. And then moving on to working capital requirements, we all know in this situation, and the current situation, most of our customers will be pressed for working capital requirements. So there is array of products that we offer in the bank, that is both for importers and for exporters. I'll start with the exporters. The pre and post shipment finances that we have for the exporters. If we take the packing credits for pre-shipment financing, we have the packing credit facilities that we grant to customers based on either export LCs or on confirmed purchase orders. And we have a very unique product that we implemented in HNB, the Export Credit service, that is in conjunction with EDB. We launched this product where the recommendations are done by EDB, and then we take on our customers to provide these credit facilities to our customers. If you need further information about this, because of the restriction on time, I will not go into further elaboration. But if you need more information, you can always touch base with us. And on the post-shipment financing for exporters, we have the products of discounting your bills and negotiating your export LC documents. Furthermore, we go on to support you with our very strong correspondent banking relationships, where if we feel that the customers, there are delays in you receiving your payments, where we get in touch with these correspondent bankers and then mediate to get your payments expedited. As well as for the importers also, we have the pre and the post shipment financing. The post shipment will be mainly in the manner of an import loan, which is offered at very concessional rates. Or we go on to offer cross-border solutioning by way of UPAS LCs, where customers can enjoy longer credit periods, because very often the suppliers, and especially in today's context, suppliers will not be interested in extending very long tenor credit periods for you all. But what we do is we negotiate with our correspondent bankers and get extended credit periods where the suppliers will get paid at their normal payment tenor itself, but where we afford you all longer credit periods to enjoy to ease off your working capital requirements. And thereafter, then we can also look at the DA bills. If you transact on document collections on usance, where we avalize your DA bills, which gives where we co-accept the payment, and it gives a undertaking of payment it's a payment guarantee to the suppliers, where then they can discount their bills. You see, under normal circumstances, a DA bill is just an acceptance of a bill of exchange, which will not give them the comfort of an export the payment. But here it's a payment guarantee that we do in the form of avalization. And we can also leverage on, like I said, we have very strong correspondent banking relationships where we negotiate, where we go into their instruments. There are various products that they offer on concessionary rates where we bring and introduce it to our customers. For local trade, we have the distributed financing program, again, another program that we can discuss very extensively. But here again, what I can say is for local traders, the distributed financing program is a program that we have designed to ease off your working capital requirements. And then for exporters, once again, like Sanjay said, we need to look at doing things differently. And this is where we have joined in partnership with Pod 360 with Ayanthi's team. I think Ayanthi will elaborate on it further, where we help you to meet your suppliers or your buyers, and where as the bankers, we provide credit information that is about status reports, or even going to the extent of getting you Dun and Bradstreet reports. Yeah, it might seem a bit expensive initially, but actually it is better to be safe than to lose money in today's context. So these are areas that we come and we help you out. And another service that we do as a trade bank, a leading trade bank, is we provide training sessions for your staff members, because trade is a very highly technical area. And there are instances where you might lose out money if you don't know the technicality of it. So we go to the extent of offering trade training to your staff members, where you can reach out to us so that we will provide these services for you.
Rozanne, for giving a very detailed answer. And let's come back to you. And a couple of questions also have come on screen. So we'll take up those things in the second round. And our next speaker. is Mrs. Ayanthi Gurusinghe, Managing Director of Cord 360. Let me give an introduction about Ayanthi. She's the founder and Managing Director of Cord 360. And Mrs. Gurusinghe began her career as a banker with Deutsche Bank and moved to the United Nations as a country advisor for Sri Lanka for a global project with UN Habitat. She was also the project advisor for the National Export Strategy under International Trade Center in Geneva. With all collected knowledge, she spearheaded the Cord 360 to support the Sri Lankan exporters to connect to the world. Ayanthi, you are basically an online trade specialist and trade promotions, that's the core area. Can you please tell us about your company in brief and its services and how technology and innovation can help promotion of international trade to overcome the travel restrictions? Over to you.
Yes, Ajit, in answering how technology and innovation can help promotion to overcome trade, first I must thank Hatton National Bank for inviting us and giving us this space to talk on how to continue trade when travel is restricted. First, let me explain to you, give you a little bit of background on Cord 360, which is designed to increase exports, creating market opportunities for Sri Lanka and other countries where our agents are represented in. Cord 360 is a B2B platform. We facilitate international trade by connecting international buyers and sellers. In a situation when travel is restricted, best way, maybe the only way to find an international buyer for your product or an international seller for Sri Lankan buyers to purchase products is through an international platform like Cord 360. You can advertise in 6 different languages on Cord 360. Your products will be viewed by many buyers over 190 countries. The buyers will contact you directly and you can do your deals directly with them without any additional payment to us. You also get the opportunity to reply to buyers' request or request for quote, as we call it on Cord 360. Buyers across the globe asking for quotation for various products advertised. As a seller, you can give a quotation. If the buyer is happy with your quotation, you can directly deal with the buyer and complete your deal. On Cord 360, in addition to that, when you're a member of cord360.com, you will get details of international buyers for your products. This we call buy leads. On buy leads, you can directly contact those sellers and secure orders for your product. So these are, I'm going on telling you the opportunities that you have on Cord 360, how you connect and actively carry out your transaction. Sri Lankan importers also can register themselves as buyers on Cord 360, which is free of charge, and find international sellers or even local sellers to purchase the products you need through Cord 360. Cord 360 is the only B2B platform in Sri Lanka that has active international buyers and active international sellers on board. This is due to a strong agent network across the globe. Cord360.com does not stop connecting international buyers and sellers. Our job doesn't just stop there. We also provide through the platform all other services which are necessary for import and export businesses. Through Cord360, in partnership with Hatton National Bank, one of the leading banks in Sri Lanka, and few other service providers, we provide support like connecting to a shipper, banker, as my colleague Rozanne said, international trade, how to further we facilitate our international trade, packaging companies, quality assurance providers, many other services necessary for import and export. Therefore, Cord360 provides total value chain for your export and import business. We also provide trade assurance. and many other services for your products when you become a member of Core 360. We also have international officers through our agents based in UK, China, India, Australia, and Pakistan, and working on connecting with Bangladesh, Egypt, and Nigeria, who are even linked with us today at this webinar, listening to your questions or waiting to answer some of the, seeing to understand the perspective of Sri Lanka to give you a comprehensive service from the B2B platform of Core 360. Therefore, Core 360 provides you a platform to do your import and export business as usual, or maybe better than usual, despite the travel and other so many restrictions prevailing due to this pandemic. When travel is restricted, do call us and connect for support services and to find new market opportunities. Take time to visit www.code360.com, where you can see latest trending products and opportunities and enhance your business, and not to feel just because of the pandemic that you will be restricted or your business opportunities will go down. We are here to work with you and carry on your business with our partnerships with the Hatton National Bank, and to make sure that your business continues as usual. Thank you, Ajit.
Ajit, your line is mute.
Our next speaker will be Mr. K. Indravasi, and he's the head of SME and microfinance at Hatton National Bank. He joined Hatton National Bank in 1992 and counts 28 years of experience in branch banking, regional banking, and also his exposure as head of emerging corporates, and now heading the SME and microfinance at Hatton National Bank. He has worked in different parts of the country and while managing branches and regions. As you know that SME is the biggest contributor to the GDP, but very little to exports. What services you do provide for SMEs to develop themselves to become an exporter or supplier in a value chain of a global company? Over to you, Indra.
Thank you, Ajit. I think I'll just, as you rightly said, as a country, SME contributes 52% of the GDP approximately, so which is more than 50%, and also contributes in employment of 45% of this country. So I'm sure SME is a vital, important sector of the country, and the same way it's for Hatton National Bank itself, because we identified the development banking and SME banking long time back, and where we have developed specialized people to promote SME. And as a bank, I think our loan books, if you take our loan books, more than 30% contributes from lend to SME sector, SME and the microfinance sector. So if you take it to the context of the exports, I think you said it's very little to the exports when you say, although that the SME contributes a large to the GDP. As a country, I think we always are less lagging in exports. When you compare to the imports, it's like 2/3 of your imports have been the maximum exports we have been doing as a country. SME is not an exception. Neither HNB's contribution in export may be to a certain extent limited. But however, what we really want to identify is how we have contributed and how we are being in export market, pushing our customers who are at SME level. When you take the SME client segment, it's not the large exporter. You find the garments, textiles, and all tea. Most of them comes from corporates. our main corporates are handling. So major exports of this in SME sector, in agriculture products, vegetable, fruits, then you take fish, then there are enough spices, you take most of the spices have been exporters, have been SME clients. So these are the sectors where as SME exporters, we have a huge market. But the challenges what we have seen at present is they have always been, most of the SME clients have been an indirect exporters to a certain extent for different reasons. They feel sometimes being an indirect exporter, they don't take the risk of finding the buyers outside. Everything they don't need to take that risk. So that is one thing. And other side of it is the usage of technology and getting involved in a lot of technology usage when you deal with the outside Sri Lanka, which they are not maybe that conversant. So those are some challenges we have seen, and people are little reluctant to really get into direct exports. But on our part, what we have done over the years is basically push these customers who have been like developed by us maybe as a small client, brought up to an extent. Now they have been in. We have always asked them to get into the export market. So some people do it over a time. And I think our connection to Ayanthi, that is code 360, also something relevant to us. Last year, we signed a memorandum of understanding with code 360, mainly focusing on this, where we really want people to find market for our clients. So what actually we are doing with code 360 is, code 360 is basically helping our manufacturers and farmers who has the capability of producing products which are of the international standard, which can be exported, but they are not really sure with the markets outside Sri Lanka. So actually the Ayanthi and his team comes in play there, where they will be able to find people for it. So actually, I think who Rozanne very clearly told the facilities what we have given. I really want to tell one more thing. I think around 3 years back, we introduced lending to the export people who are involved in export at a small timers, even without a proper collateral. So as a bank, I think we took a calculated risk. We realized that for a national importance for the exports, and as a bank, our importance to promote exports. So we introduced a product called Export Credit, where even up to around 30-40 million equivalent to rupees, we have given packing credit facilities, that is pre-shipment and post-shipment facilities, purely against maybe personal guarantors against stock, which is nothing even without tangible security. So because we really understood that this is the market has to be developed. And what I personally feel is, out of the export market, I am sure the larger exporters whom we are talking about, the textiles and the garments and the tea, will continue to they will do well irrespective of in between issues. They will continue to grow well. But the supports what as banks, private commercial banks, we have to give is for the SMEs who might be a small time exports, but when the people grow in and start exports, I think they will bring a real balance into our export diversification of products and dependability on one or two products as a country. So I think our real responsibility is on that sector, and we are really working on it. And I am sure the in coming years, the contribution of banks to exports will improve. In the meantime, as everyone said, I think our own clients should be also ready to get into different markets. There might be a little bit of risk, but once they start doing it, I am sure they will be happy to continue export rather than losing their major margins to the middleman by being an indirect exporter. I'm sure they will be happy to become the exporter direct themselves. Thank you.
Indra, answer, and we have started getting some questions, but we'll finish off the first round. And we have a gentleman from China, Mr. Chihua Tango. He's the founder and managing director of Honje Web and Technology. Mr. Tang is also called Leo, has stayed in Sri Lanka for 3 years. He has been in import-export business for 14 years and also has more than 20 years experience online retail and small package businesses for domestic market and export market. Mr. Leo's company support all trade purchases between China and Sri Lanka under the brand name Anything Coming from China. China is the second largest sourcing destination for Sri Lanka, especially our apparel manufacturers and large-scale importers. Most of them, they depend on China for their raw materials and accessories. And also China is a country that's become the Sri Lanka's #1 investor. So there has always been a strategic interest between Sri Lanka and China. So in this context, I would like to ask Leo, China is being visited very frequently by Sri Lankan business people, and China is famous for hosting the trade fairs, starting from Kunming Fair and the Canton Fair, Shanghai Fair. You name any city, I think every city has a very great their trade expo. These all have been visited by the Sri Lankan businessmen. But now the scope is limited due to travel restrictions and less opportunities for your country to have the trade exhibitions. In present context, how do you use of technology and digital platform or any other tool to continue trade with between Sri Lanka and China? Over to you.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, thank you all. My name is Leo and I'm from China. First, let me share the situation here in China. Thanks for our government and the support from all over the world, including Sri Lanka, of course. Now, the COVID-19 is under control in China. Things are getting much better and we are almost back to normal. All the factories has resumed to work long time ago. And the latest news is here in my city, Guangzhou, also known as Canton. All the schools except kindergarten will be opened this month. Also a theater, and it is not required to keep the face mask on in some low-risk places. As you know, Chinese government is very cautious about COVID-19 since we have a large population. But from the actions we can see these days, I can feel that we are safe now. As a businessman who has stayed in Sri Lanka for more than 3 years, I love Sri Lanka, and so I keep tracking the situation in Sri Lanka. As I know, the confirmed cases in Sri Lanka 2 days before is 855, and the new confirmed cases is getting lower. So don't worry, everything will be fine. Yeah, this year, because of the virus, we are unable to hold the Canton Fair in Guangzhou. But instead, we'll have a online Canton Fair showroom, which means even though travel is restricted, we can somehow use internet to continue our business, just like what Ms. Ayanthi shared from code 360. So many friends ask me to find business opportunities between China and Sri Lanka. We all know that the famous items from Sri Lanka are like Sri Lanka teas, Sri Lanka gemstones, and rubber products, or something like that. But I'm sure there are something more wait for us to discover, because when I was in Sri Lanka, I tried some Sri Lanka herbal medicines and they really worked. And like in my wife's idea, So some Sri Lanka traditional cosmetics are even better than like some international branded ones. Yeah, but the gap is online advertising, because many Chinese people are used to like find suppliers from internet. So I'm very happy to know the platform code360.com, which is like Sri Lanka platform. So then buyers don't need to run around the country and visit different factories. So it saves time, saves money, and high efficiency. So I think many Chinese can find the right supplier on it. So China has many international platforms, but many importers ask me to find the products for them because Chinese international platforms are very expensive for locals. That is why my company started a new project called Anything from China. If Sri Lanka exporters need any support from China, such as logistic or or inspections or any other things, we can help you. And we have our local agents in Sri Lanka who can personally help you in your own language. So my company can also help you to advertise your products in local China platform and in search engine. So China is a big country, you know, so people from different locations have different ways to do business. So if you have someone to help you to work efficiently with Chinese supplier, then you can save your time to concentrate on your marketing. So it's a teamwork. So everybody has his own position. After knowing code360.com, many of my friends has registered on it. So they know a new platform means new opportunities. So I think you can also find buyers from that website. As I heard code360.com, which is trying to do something more than a normal B2B platform. It is also good to hear that the partnership between HNB and an online platform together who provide many services. So I'd like to assure you, my company will support. My company look forward to help you to develop business between China and Sri Lanka. So to enter into China, best way is through online platform, maybe called 360, should further advertise in Chinese platforms, to which will support to further in China. So if HNB needs any support from China to help this audience, like all the importers and exporters from Sri Lanka, then we will help market Sri Lanka products in China. So, well, thank you for watching. If there's anything you want to know more about like Chinese markets, tell me. Thanks.
You have a good understanding about the Sri Lankan situation as well. And it's a privilege for us to have you at this discussion. A person who knows about the both countries, living here and living in China. With that, we are coming to the end of the first session, and there are some questions now have come. I think would like to pick one or two questions from the audience, and then to go on for the second session. There is a question, when will the importers can import with TT manners normally? But I do not know whether he has put the right this thing, but it says, when will the importers can import with TT, means to be the telegraphic transfers, manners, no. Rozanne, I think.
Yeah, I'll just take the question. Anyway, I'll address it in a general perspective. So currently what has been prohibited is the open account trade. Any trade that you cannot make payments on open account trade after the 18th of April, and this is suspended until further notice. And the advance payments, if you're referring to the advance payment telegraphic transfers are permitted at the moment, provided that the goods are not restricted or suspended. So depending on the HS code, go by the HS code. And if your HS code, the commodity HS code is not prohibited or restricted for imports into the country, then advance payment TTs can take place, but the open account TTs are suspended until further notice at the moment. Ajit, your mic is muted.
Let me pick one or two questions also from the audience. I think I would like you to answer this question. It has come from Singapore. What is the bank's action plan to avoid this kind of disruption if virus emerges again? Also, that person is suggesting it is high time banks to do away having a large branch network and instead go lean by having multi-service digital kiosks. So he has gone on, he has basically explained why he's telling to save cost and maintain cost, so and so forth. So over to you, Sanjay, I think, to answer this question.
Yeah, I think quite right. I mean, we have been struggling actually to push through our digital agenda for many years and many months, but this situation actually almost forced people to move on to digital platforms. So just to give you a few examples, obviously the initial thing was all about delivery. So we used platforms like PickMe, Uber, Vasi, Daraz, all the relevant platforms to tie up with sort of both our debit and credit card, and gave all the relevant clients around Sri Lanka that opportunity to transact on those platforms. And then obviously from a bank point, gave the delivery free of charge, so that it also supported people in terms of moving in that direction and getting onto those platforms. Then in addition to that, we also had a mobile bank ATM, which we call bank in a box, which once again was not used a lot earlier on. But with the situation, this was sent all over Sri Lanka, mainly in the 4 districts that the curfew was imposed. And lots of Sri Lankans use this facility, not just to withdraw using our debit cards, but any debit card within Sri Lanka. Also, the bank in a box caters to sending SEF transfers, making your bill payments, maybe making your mobile top-ups. So all these activities were provided in our bank in a box proposition. And then likewise, internet banking platform, which allows you once again to do any SEF to anybody in Sri Lanka. It allows you to pay so many billers. Plus, it also goes on to even support you to pay credit cards in other banks. And we have another facility which is to transfer money to anyone in Sri Lanka to a mobile number. So a lot of these digital assets that we had are now being used aggressively, and with a lot of client appreciating the fact that a lot of these things can be done. So it is sort of a two-way journey. Like while the bank continues to invest in assets, we also like to see customers getting onto these platforms, using it. And hopefully with the environment that was created in the last sort of 2 months, people have now started to use these assets and have seen the benefit of doing so. And the bank will continue to invest. And I think the question was, will we scale down on branches? Will we go to more digital kiosk? And definitely the answer is yes. I mean, that is something that we are looking at very aggressively to see how do we reach out to the whole of Sri Lanka in a more digital savvy manner. How do we get a mobile banking platform to almost everyone in Sri Lanka? How do we get debit cards for usage? And we have been promoting cashless right through from the day the situation started. We've been moving on to cashless platforms, and that is certainly an agenda that the bank will pursue very aggressively in terms of making it more efficient and reducing costs to the bank.
Okay, thank you, Sanjay. And another question is all about TT funds transfers. I think Rozanne can answer it. Can we now TT funds for essential raw material that is incorrectly included in Schedule 2?
Actually, if the raw material is included in Schedule 2, what we have been lobbying with the regulators is that you can't stop production, because if you stop production, that is going to create another calamity. So what the regulators have brought in is they have wanted the importers to reach out to them for special approval. So if you are an importer of raw material for your export products, you can reach out to them through EDB with a recommendation with the Export Development Board, or if you are a BOI registered company, through the BOI with a recommendation from them to say that the raw material is imported for export productions. And they have even gone to the extent of putting up a schedule, how a step-by-step information how to apply for this special approval. So with that special approval, and I'm telling you, they have been very cooperative. They know all these regulations are brought in the best interest of the country. But having said that, they also know the difficulties that the customers are facing. So they have been very cooperative in giving these special approvals. So don't hesitate if you feel that your imports are restricted and you feel that it is of national importance. You can apply for a waiver to go ahead with those imports. We have supported customers in applying for these waivers and supporting with their payments also.
Also, there are a couple of requests asking the email addresses of all the speakers. So I think the bank and Ayanthi can look into that. Also, the similar request has come from Bangladesh, asking for the email address of Code 360 specifically. And so then we, Rozanne, I think you were explaining about your products and services, how you were catering to your clients during difficult times. But definitely there should have been the limitations due to the regulatory environment as well. So what changes you expect the regulatory authorities to do to meet the expectations of importers and exporters, and any issues you see in the process? Over to you.
Okay, thanks, Ajit. So if we just take a step back and go to the pre-COVID-19 era, where we saw in the past couple of years where the regulators relaxed so much of regulations in Sri Lanka. This was with the best interest for the country to make Sri Lanka to be seen as a place of ease of doing business, because they saw that the more red tapes means we are keeping away investors into the country. So we needed those investments coming into the country. And because of that, there was so much of regulation, relaxation that took place in the past. But with COVID-19 coming in and with the liquidity issue that we are facing currently in the country, not only in Sri Lanka, this has been common to most of the South Asian countries, because we have been talking to our correspondent banks in these countries also. The regulators were compelled to bring in these regulations in imposing in strict regulation to curtail the imports of mainly. First they started off with the non-essential items, but then they went on to impose it onto the most regularly imported items also. Having said that, we have been, like I said, we have been talking to the regulators quite often on these measures, and but the feedback that we have been getting from them is to say that this is very temporary until such time the situation of the country improves. We have been asking them, because you've seen limitations set by central bank until the 20th of June, by import and export department until the 15th of July. And we've asked them, so come these 2 days, what will happen post that? Because there will be, like, the floodgates will open and there will be drainage of foreign currency out of the country. So, but they have told us is if the situation improves, that they are prepared to face that situation. But in the event that the situation of the country doesn't improve, that there might be an instance where they might even look at extending these restrictions by maybe about another 2 or 3 months, or bring in more stringent processes further to the restrictions already imposed. We feel that at the moment, like we all have been discussing over here, the revenue, the foreign currency inflows into the country has dried up. The exports, we are expecting exports to contract by about 1.5 billion to 2 billion this year. But at the same time, imports have also contracted. So if simultaneously, if this situation improves, the regulators will definitely look at taking off these circulars and then going back to business as normal, because this is a situation not only common to Sri Lanka, it is a situation common to the rest of the world. So if the rest of the world is getting back to normalcy, it is nothing but right that Sri Lanka also get back to normalcy. So in with the best interest of the country, definitely we will have to go back to normalcy. But there will be, like I've always said, the new normal will come in, where we will have to look at doing things differently. So this is what we expect. This is what we foresee with the discussions that we've had with the regulators so far.
The next question goes to Indra Vasan. The businessmen all this time thought seeing is believing, so they visited other countries frequently for trade. Now travel is restricted. So will Sri Lankan customer change its mindset to do trade online?
Indra, your mic is on mute.
Sorry. Thank you, Ajit. I think I just wanted to share two things on this. As a country, we are generally very comfortable in seeing things and doing it. So as Sanjay rightly said, this specific pandemic has helped most of us to change our mindset. Even someone was asking about why we should have so much of brick and mortar banks branches. I think we realized 5 years 6 years back that we should get into technology, but for our people to understand and embrace technology was a challenge, especially in the SME sector. So that always they were comfortable in doing things which they see and comfortable after seeing that this is the exact product or service. So that challenge was always there, but I think this specific pandemic has really helped us to take some calculated risk. Say even going for an online order, we don't mind ordering it even if it goes wrong. So we have to take that risk. So like that, people have changed there. As Sanjay rightly said, they have started using, people who have not even used technology for fund transfers for their own users. Now they are using it. So I am sure they will really change their minds and get into that practice of trusting others and get into that market. But here again, the challenge always the SMEs had was say whether they have the real research and development for the SMEs to find new products, whether when they are going to export markets, whether they really practice the ethical and sustainable practices. All these things are very important when you get into overseas market. So I think the responsibility of us as banks and people like Ayanthi at Code 360 and also the Export Development Board. I think we were working very closely with EDB for the last 3-4 years to find these markets and make them confident to get into that market. I think Rozanne mentioned we can always get client reference. There can be a little bit of cost. Still, we should encourage them to pay it, get that reference and understand the other market, other people outside Sri Lanka and start somewhere. Because if they don't even start that at a small scale, even those exports, we will never get into this market. I am sure this pandemic has taught that lesson, and there will be a lot of people now will take ready to take that risk and move in there. So now it's our duty for us to also assist them to get into these markets, different places, helping them to understand those markets and also assist them to get into the real sustainable ethical practices in their manufacturing on a production, everything, if they really want to sustain their export. Ajit, I'm done.
There are a couple of questions. We'll focus on that. I think you need to give some short answers, and those questions are also direct. Draft at 180 days after the shipment, is it possible for cement?
If it is in Schedule 2, yes, it is possible.
Okay, there's also another.
If the HS code is under Schedule 2, because I'm not very sure what the HS code is for cement is, if it is under Schedule 2, then it is possible.
There's another one, I don't know whether it is interconnected, this question. EDB says that they can only apply for Schedule 1 and not Schedule 2. One line I have seen.
Schedule 2, actually imports are restricted only on open account terms, and it's permitted under DP and DA usance LCs and DA terms, provided there's a credit period of 90 days. So actually EDB intervention is not required under Schedule 2, as long as you can get your suppliers to agree to supply to you on a 90-day period. But Schedule 1, where the goods are restricted on a temporary basis, that is where EDB will support you to get that restriction waived off.
Okay. Also, there is another, I think, connected question. What would be the future action plan from the banks' point of view for the export credit loans granted for SME exporters affiliated with central bank relaxations?
Indra, will you be able to take on that question?
Yeah, I can, but if Ajit, can you repeat the question? I didn't really.
What would be the future action plan from the bank's point of view for the export credit loans granted for SME exporters affiliated with central bank relaxations?
I believe this question is based on the debt moratorium. I believe he's asking based on the debt moratorium. The clients, SME clients, almost the whole sectors, most of the sectors are eligible for the moratorium, where whether it's we have given for export or the imports, the loans can be, if the remittance are delayed, he is not going to get the remittance, he or she, we can always give the debt moratorium of capital and interest for 6 months, going up to 30th of September. That is possible. But in between, if the things improve and if he gets, he can settle it. So he is eligible. I believe that is what he is asking under the central bank relaxation. We are allowing, and we have already allowed most of the exporters, if their remittance are not coming in, to postpone it up to September. In the meantime, if the business are running, in addition, we have started supporting the exports, because that is one of the important things for the country. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. And I like to pose these questions to Leo, Mr. Tang.
Yeah.
Former Chinese leader Deng Xiaoping once said, the color and the size of the cat doesn't matter. What is important is if it is cat, it should catch rats. So will China's strategic presence in Sri Lanka in terms of trade would help Sri Lankans' international trade, especially with exports?
Yeah, thank you. Of course, you know, China is a peaceful country. We want to develop people's life with people from different countries, and also, as you know, we invest a lot in our country. We invest a lot in Sri Lanka, and of course, as you know, China is a big country. People want to get a good products from all over the world, of course, including Sri Lanka. As I said before, Sri Lanka still there are a lot of good things, but just needs a platform to show to us. So I think with the new B2B platform called 360.com, I think we can get more things from Sri Lanka, and this is also a way to help the Sri Lanka's economy to grow.
Okay, thank you. I would like to give the next questions to Ayanthi. It has come from the audience. How reliable is the web-based exhibitions from the buyer's perspective to selection of capital goods, even for preliminary evaluations? Question mark.
So how reliable is the web-based exhibitions? I think that is the trend that everybody needs to move into. Just like our colleague shared, Canton Fair in the future will be on the digital platform. So it is reliable. It's just that it's a Sri Lankan mentality. Sometimes we are used to always spend so much of money, go to an exhibition and then still see the person's face and to do trade. I mean, to exhibit your things, but just because you exhibit your products, there is no guarantee even that those buyers who come to view your products will even connect with you. So now the new trend is that there are exhibitions and even online platforms where it fills the gap, where you can advertise your products. Even on the Canton Fair, when it comes online, you could advertise on it. Even Core 360 is also a similar way where you could put your advertisement online and then do your trading. And also compared to and then there are different services also provided on these platforms to secure your products. I just want to touch on one small thing that provides, and this is something very unique service that Core 360 provide, is something called trade assurance. So just like an exhibition, when you, if a buyer and a seller agrees for this facility with the placement of an order, the buyer pays the money to Core 360 account. When the buyer informs that he got the order satisfactory, we release the money to the seller. So the seller's payment is secured in that way. We also assure the buyer that the product he orders will be delivered to him on time. We check quality, and then we check maybe certain standards even that he wants. And we follow up on the seller. We don't charge anything also for this service. So much as we provide this facility, a special facility like trade assurance, most of the online exhibitions also provide this. So in that sense, as we all move, the world is moving, the reliability and the verification, I assume is good.
Okay.
And also one little thing, Ajit, answering us, I mean, I saw so many questions they have asked for the website of Cord 360. It's www.cord360.com. And also you could contact us on the mobile numbers 076 817 7389 or 77 384 4907. Otherwise, just go to our website. I mean, you can directly connect with us, send us a message, and there will be someone from the team linking with you. And there was another question asking contact to anything from China. Them also you could contact. We also provide a contact through our website. So you can contact Mr. Leo directly, or even we provide linkage support as well. You could contact through the website. Thank you, Ajit.
Okay, thanks, Ayanthi. But I have a question for you. When buyers and suppliers have the registration on your Cord 360, do you have a way of verifying their background or the credibility of the buyers and suppliers?
Yes, because the uniqueness of Cord 360 is when a seller registers with us, we verify. They're all verified seller. If you go to our website, you will see a green tag on the line saying verified seller. So verified seller means we have checked their business registration, their telephone number. We have verified them to a certain extent. Of course, I must say we don't do 100. I mean, anybody, we can't do 100% verification, but we assure that they are verified. They have a business, ongoing business. They are not blacklisted. So we verify not only in Sri Lanka, also through our agents across the globe. Any seller in their country, if you want, whenever a seller register to Cord 360, they are verified. But we also provide the option for sellers to come and join as free members. So free members, they can advertise, but they are not verified. So whenever it's a verified client, we give a special ID and there's an icon that says they are verified. So that way we secure the transactions when you get involved with Cord 360 and do.
Okay, thank you. Also, there is another question about Tanzania, and the question is about, is there any specific conditions applied for importation? But it's not very clear whether this imports into Sri Lanka or whether the imports into Tanzania. But my advice is if you could browse the website of Department of Commerce with the HS code, if you know, and then it gives a lot of information about the terms and conditions with regard to exports and imports. The product wise, already there are 24 products on the website, and it is one of the best trade portals by any any government agency. So I would like to refer, please refer to the Department of Commerce website, and any the panelists, the speakers want to add something, please, it's your time. You want to add anything? Okay, let's move on. I think the time is basically it's only 10 to 15 minutes we have according to the scheduled time. So we'll have a couple of questions. Sanjay, what message you have for the prospective Sri Lankan importers or exporters who basically still have not, who has not done any business internationally, but they hope to do it in the future? So what is your, from the point of HNB's point of view, what is the message you can give for the prospective Sri Lankan businessmen who like to do imports and exports in the future?
So I think essentially, if you look at exports specifically, I think it is a great opportunity, as I sort of mentioned before. This is the time that, you know, if you have not ventured into this space, ideal opportunity for any company that has been looking at producing and manufacturing goods here to now venture out and see, you know, how they can, you know, trade into the international markets in terms of exports. And this whole webinar and seminar was to support and give that confidence that HNB as a bank also again has partners like Core 360, Tang, who's also here from China, to see that we are putting together these links to give that assurance that we are not just operating in Sri Lanka, but actually looking at how we can expand and support all our customers to go into these various markets. The other benefit is, as I mentioned, a lot of countries, I mean, in the Europe, I mean, if you look at Italy, if you look at Spain, if you look at the US, all are in a severe lockdown state and not knowing when they will sort of open up. So that again allows us an opportunity to get into certain items and cater to those requirements of the world market in general. So, you know, specific things like medical related equipment, you know, other sort of spices from Sri Lanka, maybe some Ayurvedic medicine, all these items that, you know, we produce in mass scale here that we can now look at exporting out there into the markets. And more specifically, even the temporary ban on imports in some sense gives again businesses in Sri Lanka an opportunity to explore and see whether we can manufacture these, whether we can, you know, create these within Sri Lanka, and then have that as a test bed, and then maybe later on obviously go into international markets. As Indra covered sometime earlier, the SME exports in Sri Lanka is as low as 5%. Now, that is something that we clearly need to obviously, you know, improve and increase in terms of as a country to develop further. And this takes a lot of effort. It is not easy. I mean, if you look at MS, if you look at a Sparsilon, if you look at a Dilma, they all started very small. I mean, first of all, they obviously manufactured things here, you know, got a brand presence, and then ventured out there, but they never started, you know, in this scale. So you have to venture out at least in a small degree and try and test those markets and expand. As long as you have, you know, confidence in your product, you got to look at your marketing strategies, you got to look at quality, you got to look at sustainability, you have to see how powerful you are in terms of being able to cater to orders. So all those things are things that we now, as Sri Lankans, need to see how do we up our game to compete in the world market. How do we look at, you know, going away from this island mentality and saying, okay, how do we compete with the world now? Because a lot of our products have done so. And this is the time to sit back and really rethink our business strategies and obviously the bank is there to support in any way possible to any exporter or importer looking at venturing out further.
Okay, thanks, Sanjay. And there's another question from the audience. It says new regulation to get special approval for imports of raw material and inputs for export processing. And he has branded this situation as a self-imposed non-tariff barriers for exports, adding more burdens, especially SMEs. And more steps and procedures to be followed is very costly and time consuming. What is the rationale of this special approval? And he says this is unnecessary at a COVID-19 time. Special support is needed for exporters. Why not relax these rules and could the panel reflect on this important matter?
Yeah, I think I'll take that question because we've had these discussions with the regulators, especially with the Department of Import and Export, with the controller as well as the director controller, and we've told them that this restrictions hasn't helped the exporters, especially when they were importing raw materials. That's why they said that these extra steps were brought in, but actually they are also looking at relaxing this further for the exporters. And what we were told is there are about another 2 or 3 circulars to come out in the near future. Only thing is they are waiting for clearance because they can't do it on their own. Despite, although they see the difficulties faced by the exporters, they can't do this on their own. They have to get treasury approval also and central bank approval also. So there are discussions that are going on at the moment, and we can expect these circulars to come out anytime. Even this circular that enable the payment on copy documents, this was in discussion for the past 2 weeks, and we have been following up with the regulators for the past 2 weeks, and finally this circular came out yesterday. Things are moving slowly, but they know the difficulties that are faced by the exporters at the moment, and they are working on it. So I would say it will be a matter of time before these regulations will be relaxed for the exporters.
Thank you, Rozanne. My next question goes to Indra Vasan. As you know, we have been dealing with the SMEs in this country for quite a long period. And one of the salient features is the informal nature of these SMEs. They are not sometimes preparing the P&L balance sheets or the required the documents to apply for the banking facility. So maybe you have come across the situations in the past. How you basically address those issues, which are unique to SMEs?
Thanks, Ajit. I think you told it very correctly. Take SMEs, you have 2 types of the SME, the microfinance, the low-end SMEs, and maybe a high-end SME on exposure-wise. So when they come to a certain level, most of those people, when they become really high-end SME, they used to really start doing their financials, everything, which is not an issue. But when they really come into need of financial at the initial stages as an SME, asking for a relatively smaller loans, they never have anything. And even if you go and ask them for documents, they are not really happy that we wanted them to provide all these documents. This is a part and parcel of SME lending. I think as a bank, we have been in this business for quite a long time, more than at least 30, 40 years. As Hatton National Bank itself, we have just, as I think as a bank, we have completing from Hatton Bank time, it's 130 years. And as Hatton National Bank, last couple of yesterday, that is 10th of May was our 50th year after being HNB private limited. We completed 50 years. So I think we have been in this business for a long time. We really understand it. And we have enough people at low level of field officers or at credit officers at branch level who understand the basic modality, how the business runs. So we really work on that. It's not on the numbers or which has been audited accounts. Even during this real issue where everyone was asking for working capital finance, they to assist them during, we have never asked for a single one to provide us any audited reports, because we really knows the business, what is happening, what is realistic based on the number of employees, based on the daily turnover. You really work out their numbers, and we ourselves prepare a projected profitability for them and get the loans approved. That's the basic thing. But of course, when it moves into now the SME tagline by the Central Bank of Sri Lanka has gone up to 250 million exposure in rupees and 750 million. And during this COVID, they even went up as SME as 1 billion turnover. Those are the high-end SME or people who are aspiring to be corporates one day. So those people, of course, we are more of, okay, they will be able to give us audited accounts. Then again, the challenge is, even if they have the audited accounts, this is the real audit accounts or the real turnovers of them has been always a challenge. So it has been always, we have a balance and check from their activities, the books, the accounts. So that's how we manage it. And for the low end SMEs, of course, we don't even go and ask for it. We feel it and we do it when we feel they really are into a business, and through a business inspection report, we move on. That's how we manage.
Okay, thanks. I think we are coming to the end of the session, and I must thank all the speakers for supporting me to run this program the clockwise. We are basically on the target, starting at 4 o'clock and going on till 5:30. And this is the last question. And I like to pose this question to Sanjay. Hatton National Bank was started by the Sri Lankan entrepreneurs, I think more than 100 years ago in Hatton, as a bank to cater to the plantation industry. And since then, Hatton National Bank has come a long way. In the merging with the National and Greenlace Bank, then acquiring the Mercantile Bank of India, acquiring Middle East Bank, and then finally the Bank into Suez. So you have come basically a long way to today's position, bringing and adding more values and the traditions also to the banking industry. I'd like to ask you this question. You are enriched with very, maybe 100-year-old history. You are the first bank to do a very you are the first private bank to do a very successful development bank in the Mahavali H division in 1970s. So in this context, Sanjay, how do you see the uniqueness of Hatton National Bank or any specialty HNB can offer to its Sri Lankan business community in the future?
Thanks, Ajit. Yes, I think you mentioned quite a few other points already in terms of history. We've been around for 130 plus years. We now have a branch network of over 250 branches, and we also have close to 750 digital self-service machines. So one of the things that really will differentiate us in the future is our whole digital transformation. As one of the questions also that came in, we are focusing a lot in terms of how do we really transform into a cashless society, how do we bring businesses together, how do we build digital platforms, how do we make banking convenience to our customers. So a lot of work has gone in terms of investment, in terms of strategy, in terms of thinking, in terms of trying to being how futuristic we can be. And even one of the things that we are looking at now, similar to the platform we are looking at or talking about with Core 360 in terms of having a B2B platform for the Sri Lankans and to reach out worldwide. But we're also looking at how we can build maybe a similar platform in Sri Lanka itself to see how we can have our own Alibaba version of trading taking place in a marketplace within Sri Lanka. The other thing, as Indra mentioned, one most powerful factor is our microfinance and our SME proposition and the strength of our relationship managers across Sri Lanka. So we don't operate any of these from Colombo or the center. We want to have the knowledge from at a ground level. So we have our RMs based in the regions, we have our RMs based in the branches, we have our credit experts out there in the regions, so that, as Indra mentioned, we really understand the business, not just with the balance sheets or not just numbers on paper, but understanding it further to see how we can support these businesses, how we can grow with them and develop them even further. And as our tagline says, partner in progress. The microfinance business, therefore also gives somebody to start from that grassroots level, start from the very small scale, then build on to a SME platform, then go on to emerging corporates, and then even develop to a corporate banking. So that whole path is catered there and out there for a client to work with HNB right throughout their history in terms of banking. And then clearly our Gami Pubutu, which is, the village, awakening of a village, is something that we have focused and practiced for many years. I think that itself is 40 years old. Now, these last few years, we've been bringing lots of different clients from around Sri Lanka, mainly even to Colombo. Some people who have never done any trading in Colombo, say all the way from Jaffna out here at the BMICH selling their products. So these are things that we focus on very proactively in a creative manner, taking it out to the various districts within Sri Lanka and expanding to various markets and giving people opportunity to really expand their business even more than they have done in the past. And then, of course, Rozanne and her team, handling the trade side, because this seminar was all about trade. We operated right throughout the pandemic from 20th of March, 24/7 round the clock. We can operate it from all our branches. All 250 branches are equipped with SME, trade. So whatever a customer requires around Sri Lanka, HNB there to cater to their requirements and needs. So as I mentioned when I started, we opened for business once again. All our branches are now open and running, and we are able to now support any client with all their requirements that they need.
Thanks, Sanjay. The time has come to sign off, and I must thank Sanjay, Idravasum, and Rozanne, Ayanthi, and Tang, and also the audience who have logged in from various countries as well. I think today being the most of the officers are basically on the between 3 to 5. They are basically at a time they are closing according to the COVID-19, the guidelines given by the government due to transport, but still the sizable amount of the audience and the participants by taking very good questions taking up, and also the panel giving a very good, very elaborative and the answers. So I think the all in all, you have done a very good job, and also must thank Hatton National Bank for conducting this session. Must also thank the Code 360, Mrs. Ayanthi Gurusinghe, and also from China, all the way from China, for his enthusiasm and interest in joining. And also, I should not forget our technical support, the technical partner, the technical support given by Blue Lotus 360, which is a John Keels funded, easy to set up subscription-based cloud ERP and HRM software solutions and provider for SMEs in manufacturing, construction, trading, and service industries. So thank you very much to you as well. So thanks once again until we meet up on another day. So we sign off. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.